Gilgamesh, the mightiest king, feared nothing except death. When his best friend Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh embarks on a dangerous quest to find immortality. But what if death can't be defeated? Journey with him through gods, monsters, and secrets that will change everything. Will Gilgamesh conquer the impossible or lose everything in his search for eternity? Find out now. Long ago, in the great walled city of Uruk, King Gilgamesh ruled. He was no ordinary man. His body was part human, part god, giving him unmatched strength. Yet his heart was hard, and he cared little for his people. He forced them to work endlessly on grand projects and took whatever he wanted from them. The people groaned under his rule. "Help us, great gods," they prayed. "Send us a savior to stop this tyrant." The gods, hearing their cries, created Enkidu, a wild man born from clay. His hair was thick as the wilderness, and he lived among the animals. He drank from rivers and protected creatures from hunters' traps, but he knew nothing of human life or the ways of men. One day a trapper saw Enkidu break his nets with mighty hands. Terrified, the hunter ran to Uruk and told Gilgamesh of this strange wild man. "I will tame him," said Gilgamesh, laughing. "Send the woman Shamat, who is wise in the ways of men. She will teach him the world of civilization." Shamhat found Enkidu at a waterhole, drinking beside gazelles. She sat near him, her eyes warm and kind. She spoke to him of bread and wine, of cities and kings. Enkidu, curious, stayed by her side. He tasted the food she offered, and something inside him changed. "The wildness leaves you now," Shamhat said softly. Indeed, Enkidu felt different. He could no longer run with the gazelles or speak the language of the animals. But he had gained new strength, knowledge of the human heart. When Shamhat told him of Gilgamesh's tyranny, Enkidu grew angry. "Take me to this king," he demanded. "I will challenge him myself." Shamhat led Enkidu to Uruk, where the people whispered of the coming storm. Enkidu and Shamhat arrived at Uruk, the great city of stone walls. Enkidu's eyes widened at the sight of the mighty palace and the busy streets. He could feel the tension in the air. The people of Uruk were desperate for someone to stop Gilgamesh's cruelty. When Enkidu entered the palace, he saw Gilgamesh standing tall and proud, his eyes burning with power. The two locked eyes, and without a word, they knew a challenge was coming. Gilgamesh, laughing, said, "Who is this wild man who dares to challenge me?" Enkidu roared and rushed toward him. The ground shook as their fists collided, both men strong and unstoppable. The battle between them was fierce, neither giving in. For hours they fought, their strength tested to the limit. But as the fight raged on, something strange happened. The fury in their eyes softened, and both men stopped, panting with respect in their hearts. They realized that they were no longer enemies, they were equals. "Brother," said Gilgamesh, offering his hand, "you are strong. I have never met anyone like you." Enkidu accepted, and from that day they became friends. As friends, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were unstoppable. They shared stories of their lives, laughed, and made plans for great adventures. One night, Gilgamesh had a strange dream. He dreamed of a massive rock and a golden axe. His mother, the goddess Enlil, Nin's son, interpreted the dream, saying, "The gods have sent you a message. There is something you must do to prove your strength." Gilgamesh's heart burned with desire for greatness. "Let us go on an adventure," he said. "Let us make our names known to the world." And so they decided to venture to the bird cedar forest, Tuadil, where the great monster Humbaba lived. Humbaba was the guardian of the forest, and no one had ever dared to challenge him, but Gilgamesh was fearless. "We will defeat him," he declared. "The gods will be with us." Gilgamesh and Enkidu set out for the cedar forest, their hearts full of excitement and fear. The path was long, and they faced many dangers along the way. Strange creatures lurked in the shadows, and the wind howled with warning. As they approached the forest, Enkidu's nerves began to grow. He had heard the tales of Humbaba's terrible power. "Are you sure about this, Gilgamesh?" he asked. Gilgamesh stood tall. We are strong. Together we will overcome him. They entered the forest, and the trees towered over them like giants. Suddenly the ground shook and a voice boomed from the darkness. "Who dares enter my domain?" Humbaba appeared, his body covered in armor made from the trees themselves. His eyes burned with fury. "Prepare yourself, monster!" Gilgamesh shouted, drawing his sword. The battle with Humbaba was fierce. The giant monster roared and swung his massive fists. Gilgamesh and Enkidu dodged his blows, their hearts racing with fear and excitement. "Stay strong, my friend," Gilgamesh shouted as they fought. "We cannot let him defeat us." But Humbaba was powerful, and his strength seemed endless. With every strike, the ground trembled beneath them. Enkidu grew tired, and for a moment it seemed like they might lose. Then Gilgamesh had an idea. "Enkidu, we must work together. We will defeat him with our strength and our minds." Enkidu nodded, and together they began to fight with greater strategy. They outsmarted Humbaba, using his own strength against him. Slowly but surely the monster weakened. With one final strike, Gilgamesh cut down the great Humbaba. The forest fell silent. They had won. With Humbaba defeated, Gilgamesh and Enkidu stood victorious. But the gods were not pleased. Humbaba was a servant of the gods, and his death angered them greatly. The god Atishamashbudobat, who had aided Gilgamesh, appeared before him. "You have angered the gods by killing Humbaba," he warned. "You must pay the price for your actions." Gilgamesh's heart sank. "What will happen to us now?" he asked. The gods decided to send a punishment: the great bull of heaven. A creature of immense power was unleashed upon them. The bull of heaven descended upon Uruk, its hooves shaking the ground. Its eyes were fire, and its roar echoed through the sky. The people of Uruk fled in terror as the bull rampaged through their city. Gilgamesh and Enkidu saw the destruction from afar. "We must stop it before it destroys everything," Gilgamesh said, his voice full of determination. Together the two friends faced the beast. The bull of heaven charged, its fury unmatched, but Gilgamesh and Enkidu fought back with all their might. With each strike, the bull grew weaker. Finally, with one last blow, they killed the bull of heaven. Its body lay in the streets of Uruk, a symbol of their strength and defiance. But the gods were furious. They decided that one of them must pay for the deaths of Humbaba and the bull of heaven, and so they chose Enkidu. Enkidu felt a cold chill run through him as he lay in his bed that night. His body ached from the battle with the bull of heaven. He could feel something was wrong, but he didn't know what. That night, as Gilgamesh slept beside him, Enkidu had a terrible vision. He saw the gods take him away. His heart raced, and he woke up in a cold sweat. The next day, Enkidu fell ill. His body grew weaker with each passing hour, and Gilgamesh watched helplessly. "Why is this happening?" he cried. "You cannot leave me, Enkidu. You are my brother." But Enkidu's fate was sealed. The gods had decided that he must die as punishment for their actions. Days passed, and Enkidu's condition worsened. He lay in bed, feverish and weak. Gilgamesh refused to leave his side, watching him struggle to breathe. One night Enkidu woke and spoke weakly. "Gilgamesh, I know I must die, but do not forget me. Live for both of us, make your name live forever." Gilgamesh wept, his heart breaking. "I cannot bear to lose you, Enkidu," he said. "You are my brother." Enkidu smiled faintly. "Your heart is strong, Gilgamesh. You must carry on. Find your way in this world without me." And with those final words, Enkidu passed away. Gilgamesh was devastated. The loss of his brother was a wound that would never heal. He cried out to the heavens, demanding answers. "Why must we die?" he shouted. "Why does death take those we love?" The gods answered him in silence, but Gilgamesh could not accept it. He decided that he would find a way to cheat death, to find immortality and bring Enkidu back to life. "I will journey to the ends of the earth," he vowed. "I will seek out the man who survived the great flood, and ask him how to live forever." And so Gilgamesh set out on a new quest, this time for answers to the greatest mystery of all, death itself. Gilgamesh's journey was long and perilous. He crossed deserts where the sun burned like fire, climbed mountains that pierced the sky, and crossed raging rivers. He faced many dangers, but nothing could stop him. His heart burned with determination. Finally, after many trials, Gilgamesh arrived at the home of Utnapishtim, the Immortal One. Utnapishtim greeted him warmly. "What brings you here, Gilgamesh? Why do you seek immortality?" "I seek to conquer death," Gilgamesh replied. "I want to live forever, to bring my friend Enkidu back to life." Utnapishtim sighed. "Mortals cannot live forever. Death is part of the cycle of life, but there is a story I must tell you." Utnapishtim told Gilgamesh of the great flood that had wiped out the world, of how he and his wife had been saved by the gods, and of how he had been granted immortality as a reward. He explained that immortality was not for men but for the gods. Gilgamesh listened in silence, the weight of Utnapishtim's words sinking into his soul. "I cannot give you immortality," Utnapishtim said gently, "but I can offer you wisdom. Accept the truth of life, that it is fragile and fleeting, embrace the present, and live fully, for that is the true gift." Gilgamesh felt a deep sadness in his heart. "I understand," he said, but the pain of losing Enkidu still weighed heavily on him. Utnapishtim then offered Gilgamesh a plant that could restore youth and heal the body. It was the closest thing to immortality that a mortal could possess. Gilgamesh eagerly took the plant and began his journey back to Uruk. But as he neared the city, a snake slithered across his path. The snake stole the plant from Gilgamesh and slithered away. "No!" Gilgamesh cried, but it was too late. The plant was gone. Gilgamesh returned to Uruk, his heart heavy with grief. He had sought immortality, but had learned that it was a gift meant for the gods alone. As he stood before the walls of Uruk, he realized that the greatest gift was the legacy he would leave behind. And so, Gilgamesh accepted his mortality, knowing that the stories of his adventures, his friendship with Enkidu, and his leadership of Uruk would live on forever.